My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying Jiu-Jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master for Renda Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of Jiu-Jitsu Te and Jiu-Jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of SanucesS Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and SanucesS Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo master and professor of SanucesS Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official SanucesS Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of SanucesS Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of SanucesS organization, Soki Hassan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, SanucesS Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, os.
Welcome to On the Mat. This is Fukan Shabazz from the Central Kai Dojo Word Within branch. And today I have my co-host, Shihan Salahuddin, teacher SanucesS Ryu. Bring him in. Eye, Shihan.
Heart to heart, to the wall and back. How we doing?
We're doing good today. To our viewers, our guest today is Shihan Kavanarian out of the South Florida area. Before I bring him onto the line, Shihan, can you tell the audience a little bit about who Shihan Kavanarian is?
Good, sure. Shihan Kavanarian was a disciple of Dr. Moses Powell and an early pioneer in the SanucesS Ryu South Florida area. He's always been a very, very good friend and close friend of Dr. Moses Powell. And as far as jiu-jitsu, technically, him and I are as close as you can get as far as jiu-jitsu goes.
Us. All right. So I'm gonna actually call him right now and bring him into the show. Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir. All right. All right, let's see, Lloyd. All right, let's give us a moment here to contact Shihan, Kevin.
try him again.
Okay.
Hey, Shihan, did you hear that busy signal when I called him?
Yeah, I do. All right, let me try on my end here.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, let me try on my end here. Just bear with us.
Yeah.
This is live radio. Happens on live radio. Oh, Shihan Kevin.
Yes, how you doing?
Oh, good. You're live on the radio. Do we have you, Shabazz?
Yes, I have it. Yes, we're here.
Oh, okay. Good.
Shihan, I was calling you because I want to connect you. I guess you're calling on the three-way line with Shihan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to get him on the show line because I think he'll be clear. Because I think he'll be clear if I get him through the radio show versus you on your three-way.
Okay. I'm going to call you right back, Shihan Kevin, on a different number. So bear with us here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Shihan, let me know when you want me to call him back.
Okay, call him back right now.
All right, cool. All right, just give me 1 second. Let me see. Okay, Kevin Aaron? Oh, Shihan? Hello? Sensei.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Shihan Kevin Aaron is on the phone. Shihan? Oh, he's not. This is the weirdest thing. You know what? Call him back when you're three-way. I guess we can do it like that.
All right, let's try it again.
So while he's coming, this is actually Shihan. This is actually Fukan Shabazz. We're interviewing Shihan Kevin Aaron. He trained with Dr. Moses Powell in the Florida, in that Florida era, which probably would have been between 1978 or 79 up until maybe 1989, 90, around that. And it was during that period that actually my teacher, Shihan Salahuddin, comes out of that era. Shihan Kevin Aaron comes out of that era. My teacher's teacher, Grandmaster Gino Alfarano, who most people never really doesn't even, really, he's very private, but, he's my teacher's teacher. He comes out of that era. And, when I train with my Shihan, those movements that we do, it's very, Very, very dangerous. Very, very to the point. You know, it's real quick, short movements. And so Shihan Kavanagh, he definitely comes out of that type of teaching. Let me see.
What's that?
Is Shihan, you back on the air?
Yeah, Shihan Kevin's calling in. Should be right now.
Okay. Let me check right now. All right. Okay. Okay, Shihan?
Hello? Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, you know, let me just welcome you to the show before I get started. I already kind of gave the audience some idea of, you know, your background, so I'm just going to welcome you with a formal applause. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. You know, today is the Dr. King's holiday, and as I'm looking on this radio prompt, because I have a prompt that I have to run the board on, and it does say that the help desk is closed today in honor of Dr. King, so maybe that's the reason why I wasn't able to use this function to call you from the show. You know.
Okay.
But other than that, man. So before I go into the questions, just kind of tell the audience who you are, where you are, and a little bit about, you know, how you met Dr. Moses Powell, and just open us up, and I'll take it from there.
Okay. My name is Kevin Aaron. I reside in Fort Lauderdale. I've lived in Fort Lauderdale all my life. This is where I've trained with Professor Moses Powell. And I trained with Professor Moses Powell at two different locations here. We'll get into that further into the show.
Okay. All right. So let me just kind of jump right into it. Who was your first instructor in SanucesS?
Professor Moses Powell.
Okay, and I noticed you call him Professor. Now, is there a reason why? Now, what year did you start? And in the year that you started, did he go by the name Professor, and did he go by the name Doctor? And like, when did he make that transition from Professor to Doctor?
When I trained with everybody in South Florida used to call him the Professor because that's what his rank was at the time we were training. And later on, before our dojo closed here, he got promoted to Grand Master.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my training with Dr. Powell in 1979. I was actually I was training with a friend of mine named Marvin Groover. I was training in his backyard, and at the time I did not know that I was doing SanucesS Jiu-Jitsu. So, but he took me in his backyard for 2 years because he said he had to get me prepared to join this dojo. So I started my training in SanucesS in like 1981.
So from 79 to 81, what was that training like? Like, what was that preparation training like before you was able to meet Dr. Powell?
Well, at that time I was 14, and at 14, you think you know it all and you think you're tough, and it would have been bad if I would have joined the dojo at that time. And my friend obviously knew that, so he had to get me prepared because he told me that where I'm going to sign up at is not a joke, and he's got to get a lot of things worked out first. And I immediately saw what he meant when I first joined the dojo.
All right, so 1981, you're finishing up that preparation training, and so what happened? He said, okay, 2 years is up. All right, I've done all I could do. Like, how did that transition go from him introducing you to Dr. Powell? Like, what was that first day like? Like, did you drive there? Did y'all walk there? Like, what happened when you went to the dojo?
Well, he drove me out to the dojo. He said he had someone that he wanted me to meet. And we had stopped in front of the dojo, and Professor Powell was walking up. And at that point, I was in awe because I already knew who he was. Right. Because I looked at the official karate magazines that he was in, or the black belt magazines that he was in. So I was already worshiping the man before I actually met him. And I was just in awe when I met the professor.
And when you actually so your first day of class with Dr. Powell, what was it like? Though, if you can remember that, I don't know if you probably can remember, but the first day when you was on the mat with him, who was in the dojo at the time? Like, who was some of the people we may know or may not know that was in the dojo, particularly the higher ranks? And what was that training like in the initial stages of it?
The first dojo, it was out in Willoughby. That was the first location that I started training with Dr. Powell. And that was out in Oakland Park. I have everything I have all the information that you need. I have addresses, business cards, letters, flyers, my original application for signing the dojo, receipts for paying for the dojo. I have everything. So,
wow.
But when yes, sir.
No, and who were some of the people that was training in that dojo?
That dojo was very small. It was only like 1,500 square feet, and at the time I was still in school then, so I could only train like right after school. I had to be home at night, so at that particular time, Professor Powell was in the dojo. Alfred Rowe from the Bahamas, Chris Christopher was at that dojo. Frankie Adderley, he's also from the Bahamas. He was in that dojo.
And Frankie, out of these guys, the brothers that was from the Bahamas, were they some of his showdowns? Were they black belts?
They were black belts.
And what were they moving like? Like, how did they move?
They were flowing nicely. I mean, to watch those brothers move, just flawless movements. Any one of the students, you always aspire to be like any one of them. And I didn't know those guys had teeth back then because those guys never smiled. It was always serious business.
Serious business, yes, sir.
Now, one thing I love about that Florida, me personally, man, I'm not just saying this because I'm teaching from that era, but that Florida era, man, you guys are nasty, man. I watch the YouTube stuff, and it's cool, but unless you guys had an honor, like I'm honored to train my teacher, man, why are y'all flow? Like, why do y'all flow the way that y'all flow? I mean, what the hell was Doc teaching in that Florida era that I don't really see on YouTube? Like, why was his approach so different in Florida?
That's a good question because I've watched a lot of those YouTube videos myself, and I do not see the things that we were doing in the dojo.
Yes, sir.
I think the guys
Yes, sir.
are focusing on, because Dr. Powell used to always say, we have the self-defense that we do in the dojo, and which is streetology, is what he used to call it. And then we have demonstration type things that we go to try to get people to enroll in the class, and we put on demonstrations. That's the high flying, the code of gosh, all the smooth looking stuff. But
right.
we only did that for demonstrations. Inside the dojo was something totally different.
Wow. Wow. And what year did you make Showdown under Dr. Powell?
I made Showdown in 1985, and I was working nights at that time, and I took the test. I passed it. I thought I was testing for brown belt, and he actually called me and told me I didn't pick up my certificate, and he actually promoted me to first degree black belt. And I never got a chance to pick up my certificate. By the time I went back to the dojo, he had moved.
So let me ask you, what is how did it feel like when you first got that first black belt? Like, what did that feel like? I mean, and then you got it under Dr. Powell, man. Like, you did get under Dr. Powell, right? That first black belt.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yes, sir.
So what did that feel like to get that rank from him?
Well, you definitely felt as though you earned it because those classes were not easy. I mean, most of the local dojos around would have already shut their doors, and all of those masters would be in our dojo watching the class.
Wow.
It was intense. When everybody else was training an hour and a half, we were training. Our class started at 6 o'clock and didn't end until 10:30 at night. And we went.
You said 10:30?
11. Yes, sir. 10:30 at night.
Man. And you said that the local masters, that like guys who would teach in other places, would actually come and look at you guys.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
All the local martial artists.
I do. I remember that. I remember that, Shihan. They used to
wow,
come over and watch our dojo. Watch
I've never heard that in my life. I've never heard that testimony. I mean, because because for nothing else, the ego would stop. The ego would say, who the hell is this guy? Doctor, I'm a shortcut. I'm a this. I'm a that. My stuff is. But the fact that like he was that powerful that like you just don't see that. Like you don't see another martial artist come and look at another martial artist. I mean, is that about right? I mean, is that common to do something like that?
Not really. Everybody was true to what it was that they were doing.
Right, exactly. And so the seats, man. So talk about that. Like, give me an example, like of a master. Maybe he come in, like what? Like, kind of give me a scenario of a master coming in viewing your class.
Well, it was standing room only in the dojo. This is the second dojo when he moved to a much bigger facility. It's a 4,000 square foot facility, and it was state of the art. I mean, it put dojos to this day to shame. And this was back in the 80s. I mean, we had all of the Nautilus equipment. He used to run yoga classes. Aerobics used to be in there. And then we have, of course, the martial artists. And we had heavy bags, speed bags, focus dummies. We had all kinds of stuff. It was a state-of-the-art facility. And like I say, it was standing room only. The mat was filled. And Master Frank Ruiz used to be in there all the time checking out the class.
I heard of Frank Ruiz, yeah.
Right. Master Larry Mapson, excellent Goju-Ryu practitioner, used to be in the class all the time. Master Omar used to be in there, Shigote practitioner, Grandmaster Omar, I should say. And Master Herbie Thompson used to be there, Master Joe Hess, Master Rex Lee, all of the masters from back in the day would stop by the dojo and watch Professor Powell.
And so when Professor Powell would come on the floor, I mean, what was his presence like? Like when he would come on the floor, let's say all you guys, you know, I'm assuming he had his black belts lined up in the under ranks, and people looking. So when he would, what was his teaching style like? Like when he would teach, like what was that like?
It was intense. It was intense. It was like it was a god on the floor. It was the attitude.
Been living there. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But go ahead. Yeah,
it's quite all right. It's quite all right. The whole vibe just changed. I mean, the man's technique was just flawless. He was definitely way before his time. And if you got hit by that man, you knew. I mean, it was. You know, I look back on it now because I was very young when I was training back then, from like 14 to 21 or 20. It was just. I look at classes today, and it's just our class was just unsurpassed.
And so this guy, and you used to uki from, I mean, like he used to throw you and all of that.
Yes, indeed.
And what did it feel like to be thrown by him?
Well, I got thrown by him and any black belt he had running the class. I think I was a resident uki, but it was.
You're absolutely right. Shihan was the one that got. He was the one where I always say him and Gino were the ones that I saw Doc touching up in the dojo, and a lot of people watching. Shihan and Kevin got to put on him now. That's my personal testimony. I've seen that. The doctor demonstrated on those two gentlemen more than anyone else in that dojo.
Yes,
Now, Gino Ferrano. Now, he was he Doc's senior student?
No, not at that time. At that time, he was when I was training with Master Gino Ferrano. He was when I was training when Dr. Powell left. I started training with Master Gino, and he was Rokudan at the time. But back in the dojo when I was training with Gino in Professor Powell's dojo, he was I think Sandan, either Sandan or Yodan.
And Gino, what was his movements like? Like how did he flow?
Gino was very fast. He was very fast. Everybody was in there that was just hand speed was just unsurpassed. I mean, we pumped out drills after drills, the calisthenics, things that I see on TV now that they have the Navy SEALs doing and Special Forces. We was doing that back in the 80s.
Wow. And do you think that level? Do you think that level of training is what contributed to the because you know all of Dr. Powell's students, you know, grandmasters. I mean, these are exceptional martial artists. You know, I mean, do you think that type of training is what pumped out all these great grandmasters and professors and Shihans?
Yes, indeed, because Fort Lauderdale had the biggest training facility for one of the clandestine services, and it was a lot of BSO officers, FBI officers, and different local law enforcement agencies training at that facility. Because we all know that Dr. Powell was the first black man to teach the FBI and the CIA martial arts.
Right, and that's what I'm going to go into now. When you read up on Doc, they say, he trained the CIA, the FBI. So it was at your dojo that the CIA and all these law enforcement agents was coming into your dojo?
Yes, indeed, because one of the biggest CIA training facilities was right in Fort Lauderdale, right off of 17th Street Causeway.
So was it a situation where, like, you would see black cars pulling up and guys coming in, you know, they were taking having their guns, what was that like? I mean, was it like a significant amount of law enforcement that was running in that, you know, that Doc was teaching?
All of the law enforcement guys trained in the daytime, because at that particular time I used to work nights. So when I got off work, I had to help Doc. I helped Doc in the daytime with the law enforcement officers, and I did the night class as well. So I was the only underbelt in there helping the law enforcement.
Now, and the same thing that he was teaching the law enforcement, he was teaching the civilians, or did he make special classes for law enforcement?
He made special classes for law enforcement because they have certain rules they have to abide by. They can't. He had to modify it. It.
So the stuff that he was giving you guys was more lethal than the law enforcement.
Yes, indeed, because we were able to do more than what they could do. They have rules that they have to use reasonable force.
Right.
Whereas when you're a regular practitioner, you don't.
So basically, it sounds like the law enforcement that came there was, so it sounds like he had a contract. So he had a contract with the law enforcement agencies. Like, in other words, like, they was outsourced, like the CIA or the F, whatever. They was using Dr. Powell as their go-to guy to train their agents.
Yes, sir.
Wow. So it wasn't like an FBI was picking up SanucesS in their spare time. He was actually sent there from the government, from the CIA or the FBI.
Some were. I'm not all of them joined the class, because a lot of them would watch the class and did not want to do that. Because in our class, only the strong survive.
Well, let me interject here, Shabazz. Yeah, one that definitely, we had a huge law enforcement, both local, federal, state, all types of people training that dojo with us. And I remember, because like Shihan said, we would see different people. We were like, man, who are these people? And every night or every Tuesday or every Thursday, you see some different people coming in, and it wasn't until later on that you see these are all different law enforcement agencies coming to pick up what Dr. Powell was teaching. You know, I think at his time in Florida was when he had the majority of his law enforcement contracts.
Right.
And it's under my understanding that Shihan, your teacher, Grandmaster Gino Ferrano, he was the one that helped Doc get those contracts, right?
Yeah. Gino had a lot of contracts that he helped Doc get, and when I spoke with Gino, he would tell me him and Doc would even go travel to like Central and North Florida, doing things for law enforcement, doing seminars and things like that. So definitely, Doc had some in New York too. By the way, he did have contracts in New York City with federal agencies before he came down to Florida. But when he got down to Florida, I think that's when it kind of blew up. And with people like Marty Hummel and all these police officers we had training dojo at that time.
Right.
Shihan, let me ask you: when you came into the class, did you guys do kata? Like, did you do kata or sit in horse dances and stuff like that?
That we did. We did the SanucesS katas, and he would. Excuse me. I remember one time I was late for class, and I ended up having to sit in a horse dance for a minute. And he would leave. He would leave and go to the store and get something to eat, and he would know that you moved when he came back.
How many minutes he had you sit in a horse dance?
45 minutes. Which was nothing compared to what he had Wali Muhammad do. For Wali Muhammad's Yodan, he had to stay in the horse stance for 8 hours.
Oh no!
Yes,
oh
indeed.
No!
And Wali Muhammad is in Mecca right now teaching SanucesS.
Oh no, man! No, you didn't just say 8 hours, man.
8 hours for Yodan, 4th degree.
Hey, Shihan, did you hear what Shihan just said?
Oh, so I've heard that. Believe me, Dr. Notorious.
No. 8 hours? How the hell you sit in a horse dance for 8 hours?
Yes, indeed.
Man, it's crazy you mentioned horse dance because I only seen Dr. Moses Powell once in my life. I was about, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13. I was a kid. And at that time, I was training under Soki Hassan Khalik in Karoshi Do in Brooklyn. And I was going up for, I think, yellow tip or yellow belt. And part of the promotion was that I had to sit in a horse stance. And we was all kids, and I had to sit in this horse stance for 3 minutes. And I mean, those 3 minutes just seemed like that was like the craziest. I'd never forget that. It seemed like that was the craziest. Like that was your thighs be burning and all of that. And if I would have not been able to do it, I would have had to wait another 3 months or so to retest, to try to do it again. So all the kids is in there, and it hit about a minute and a half, and I mean our thighs are burning, our legs are burning. I'm like, damn, and when you sit in that horse, it just seems like time goes so slow. You waiting for the 3 minutes to come, and then guess who walks through the door? Dr. Moses Powell. And when he walked through the door, I remember him. He had I think he had a cane. Like I know he was a much older man. And when we saw him, all the kids, my legs didn't hurt no more. You know what I'm saying? He came in, he sat down, and my legs just didn't hurt. And we all passed the test. We all ran, gave him a hug, whatever. And that was the first and only time I would see him as a kid. So, and that was just 3 minutes. So when you say 8 hours.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, man.
The class was phenomenal. I mean, a lot of classes you see today, people are joking, laughing, playing around. There was none of that in our dojo. There was none of that because he blindfolded the whole class one day, and he was calling out stepping drills. And the mat that he had was so soft that you would leave your footprints in the mat. And when I was a green belt, and we were doing these stepping drills, he right at the end, he would tell me to take my blindfold off, and I was not in my footprints. Everybody else was in the dojo because I don't know if I was stepping too wide or stepping too short. But I immediately corrected that because he started shin-eyeing me.
Yeah.
In my shins when I was not stepping correctly. But that's how intense the class was. I mean, you're blindfolded doing techniques, and we did knife techniques. We used real knives. We didn't come out with wooden or rubber knives.
Hey, let me ask you: Have you received rank in SanucesS from anyone else?
Yes, I have. Matter of fact, my last rank, I was promoted to Rokudan from Professor Jerry Denson. And he said that was because I've been in SanucesS for a long time, and there's a lot of other brothers that's in the art that doesn't have half the time that I have, and that outrank me. Which I don't really care about ranking myself. I just want to train, and he would not let me take no for an answer.
Let me ask you a question. You touched on something. You said that you've been in a long time. You've been since 1979 because you had that free training before 1981.
Yes,
you know. So I was born in '79. So you've been doing it for 32 years. So that's a pretty long time. So, but let me ask you this question: as long as you've been in it, as long as you've been doing SanucesS rule, how does it feel to be in this system so long and then see somebody else outrank you and don't have half the time that you have? How does that feel as a martial artist in the SanucesS rule system?
Well, for them to have that type of rank in SanucesS and not from the professor or Grandmaster Moses Powell or Dr. Moses Powell, whatever they want to call the brother during their time period of training, that's tough because, we went through it. I've had my blood, sweat, and tears in the dojo, and I earned my rank. And I didn't buy rank. And it's troubling, but what can you do? That's the time that we live in.
I mean, but it would seem as though that would be an internal struggle. I mean, it would seem like, how have you been able to, at some point it would seem as though that would be more political than anything else. You know what I mean? Let's say if someone is outranking you, in your heart, you've been doing this thing for a long time, and then when you see someone outranks you, like you said, Professor Jerry Denson noticed that you've been like that, so he decided to bump, honor your true rank. But as a martial artist, how do you deal with that? Just how do you deal with that? How do you deal with something like that?
Back when I was training, I used to see that a lot. People would, hang on to the dock, trying to get rank, trying to buy rank, and the other half of the class was trying to earn theirs. And I was, coming up that young, you wasn't even concerned about rank. Most of these other guys had a vision because they wanted to get rank. They wanted to start their own schools. I never wanted to start a school. All I wanted to do was train. I didn't even care about rank back in the day. I just wanted to stay up under the radar, actually. But to see it now, I don't know. It's almost like it's a disservice to the martial arts and what the martial arts stand for.
Yeah, because I always used to wonder that. Because even like my teacher, Shihan Saladin, I mean, he's been doing it since 1984. He's been doing SanucesS for 27 years.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there's people in SanucesS that's been doing it not as long as maybe 20 years or 18 years, and they grandmasters or they 8th degree or 7th. You know what I mean? And when he says he's a Shihan, he's been doing it for a long time.
Right.
So I always just kind of wonder about that. Like, how does it make you feel to be doing it so long? And my next question is this: let me ask you. Now, when I think of Florida, I also think of Grandmaster Veronica. Is she the only? Now, why is Veronica the only one doing SanucesS katas in Florida?
That's a good question. Because when we moved I named the people that was in the dojo at the Willoughby location. When we moved to the big location, Veronica Walker was training over there. Master Kamal Rashad was training over there. Master Wali Muhammad was training over there. Frankie Adderley was training over there. Alfred Rowe, Professor Jerry Denson, General Ferrando, Dr. Shanique. Rex Lee's daughter, Carla Lee, was training over there as well. But Dr. Powell did not give everybody everything, and he gave her the complete SanucesS katas, and he wanted her to perfect them. And because the thing is,
go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, because every place that Professor Powell went, he did things differently. That's why no one in SanucesS can say they have the complete system, because everywhere he went, he did things different. I can only attest for the time frame that I trained. I don't know what they did in New York. I don't know what they did in Chicago. I don't know what they did before me. I don't know what they're doing after me. So no one has the complete system, because the man was a visionary, and to have that state of mind to just change techniques at will in your complete curriculum, that's just unsurpassed. That's incredible. But she has all of the katas. That was one of the main things she was doing in the dojo when I was training with her. She was pumping out those katas.
What did Dr. Powell say about those katas?
Those, I don't remember what he used to say about the katas. That was his pet peeve, because he used to call it the PIA. As a matter of fact, that was the name of his school, Modern Jiu-Jitsu and PIA Association. Before he changed it to Grandmaster Moses Powell School of Self-Defense. But that was just like his life's work. Yeah,
I did an interview with Grandmaster Muhammad. He said that the PIA, the katas is the PIA is the Rosetta Stone of SanucesS rule.
Right. That's his life's work.
Let me ask you, what is a kata, though? At the end of the day, you're very high. You're a master in the system. What is, when I say kata, and when you say life's work, can you kind of elaborate on that? Because I'm sure, a lot of people listen to this show, all over the country people listen to this show, and a lot of them are grandmasters, masters, professors, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm sure we got some people listening to the show who are white belts. I'm sure there's people who just find us on the internet, never trained in martial arts, just listening to the show. So to a person that just tuned in and just heard the radio right now, 6:36 tonight, Dr. King's Holiday, what is a kata, and what does it mean when you say it's his life work? Can you break it down to someone who's never trained before? What's the significance of that?
Well, a kata is the multiple movements for offense and defense. So basically, you're simulating an attack. And it's doing the technique in the air, basically. Instead of having someone in front of you to do a technique on, you're doing that technique just in the air, just blind. You're just working on multiple movements for your defense. And actually, kata is just like perfecting your basics. And if you don't practice basics, you're not going to be a good martial artist, because that's your foundation. That's what perfects your kicks, your strikes, your punches, and your movement. So you have to work it.
Shihan, who is your senior student right now?
My senior student?
Yeah.
Ahmad Sadiq.
Okay.
He is second Dan. I also have Sensei Robert Simmons, who's second degree. Excuse me. I have Sensei Dominique Angelillo, who's second degree. And I have Sensei Rashid Zibai, who is Shodan, first degree.
And let me also ask you this before I move on to the next question. One last question. In terms of the PIA forms, do you know all the PIA forms?
I did all of the PIA forms back when I was training, but I do not remember them now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, Dr. Powell he would always tell us to write these things down. He would always tell us to write them down. He had them in his head. I have a folder full of techniques. When I was training with different instructors, when I was training with Master Gino Alfarano, when Dr. Powell went back to Atlanta or New York, I have techniques from him. Master Kamal Rashad, I have techniques from him, because everybody said the same thing: write it down.
Now, another name that I heard about in the Florida area is a brother named, I think he's the seventh Dan, Corey Tucker. He's the son of Grandmaster Veronica. Have you ever heard of Corey Tucker?
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
yes,
and who is he? I mean, did he come from your era? Like, did he train with you guys, or did he only train with Grandmaster Veronica?
I used to see him. He used to train at the dojo also from time to time, but I think the majority of his training is with his mother, Grandmaster Veronica Walker, although he did spend a lot of time with Professor Powell himself.
And Grandmaster Veronica, was she actually in that dojo training with you as well in the early 80s?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And what kind of martial artist was she? Like, what was her movements like on the floor?
She was flawless, because Doc didn't pull no punches with her, whether or not she was a woman or not. And that lady held her own in that dojo. And she hit some brothers in there so hard, she cracked the brother's sternum. She hit him so hard.
Damn.
You know, and they had to sister, look, this stuff works. You know, but she was like, oh, you guys are big. You know, and then that sister can work. She works her techniques.
What was your relationship with Dr. Powell outside of the dojo?
We used to hang out quite a bit, because if I was running late for class, you know, he would call. He would pick me up from work. He would pick me up to go to the dojo. We trained at the beach. We would run the sand. We worked out in the water. We also went to bars and field tested techniques. But that was just the thing to do back then.
I'm a Brooklyn kid, you know, like I'm really like a Brooklyn kid, you know, and if you're really a Brooklyn dude, you're just New York all the way. But, you know, I never thought I would have lived outside of New York. And, you know, I live in Atlanta now, but I tell you, one day I was going to Pensacola, Florida. And when I saw Pensacola, Florida, man, I mean, that is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. It's almost like it's heaven on earth. And it's a few other places I've been in Florida. And Florida, man, you know, when I get older, I may just retire in Florida, man. But what was it like doing SanucesS in Florida? I mean, it had to have been very relaxing, you know, to have. To train in Florida, like what aspects is it like to train in that environment, in a Floridian environment, doing SanucesS?
It was awesome, because you have all of the elements. You know, we train outside. Outside, sometime we train in the water. It didn't matter. You know.
What was it like training in the water? Like where in the water did you train? Like what beach did you guys train at?
Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Wow. And when Doc was training, and what kind of, like, now when he used to work out on the beach, when he did techniques on the beach, did he do anything specific to the sand, or Was there anything specific he would do on the beach that he didn't do in the dojo? And like, was there anything like did he talk? Did he like share any wisdom with you? Like did his personality change on the beach versus when he was in the dojo?
Well, he just explained to me that it's the resistance training. Training in the water builds up your speed and it builds up your strength because you have that resistance coming from the water. And I immediately noticed the difference when I got back into the dojo. And we were doing.
Now, what was some of the resistance training that he did in the water?
We did blocks, strikes, kicks, all in the water. That resistance just builds up your speed and your strength. Your strength. Training in the water is awesome.
So basically, just go to your local beach, do some punches or some blocks in the water against the resistance of the water, and I guess when you come out the water, when you do it, it feel like your hand like a rubber band, like it would just snap really fast. I guess that's going to be the feeling.
Right. It does increase your speed. You can do your leg lifts in there too, and it will increase your flexibility because that resistance pushing up against your muscles. It's incredible. It's incredible. I immediately found out the difference. That resistance training is awesome.
Did he know how to swim? Like, was he a swimmer?
Yes, he did. He was an excellent swimmer.
Wow.
That he was.
Let me ask you, like, one last question, like, over that cat. Did you ever see him like swim deep out into the beach, or did he always just work in like the shallow part of the water?
He was out further than I could go. It was over my head. I couldn't even. I didn't want to go out that far because we were in Florida. There's a lot of sharks out there, so I didn't want to go out that far myself. But he was. And so
the fact that he knew sharks was in that water, did that ever intimidate him?
No. They would only. I guess he knew they would only come so far, but you never know. I mean, they've been on the shore before, so I don't know.
619-996-1602. We're talking to Shihan Kavanagh from the
Shihan. Yeah. Explain to our audience how remember Fort Lauderdale used to be like the summer hangout spot. Remember how Fort Lauderdale used to be like the strip and everything when there used to be a lot of people down there, and all the college students came down.
Right.
And then they had the bars and everything else down there. You mentioned some of the stuff that you guys went down there. Doc would field test some of the stuff. How was it back then again? As far as walking up and down the streets of Fort Lauderdale and situation. And you've seen Doc. Have you seen SanucesS Rue? What we call live action or live, when real punches are being thrown. Doc, have you seen Doc in a real situation?
Yes, I have actually. We used to go to those. We used to go to those venues, and the beach used to be packed. And if you was out there, you was going to get into something because it was just too many people out there, and it was just a matter of time before someone started harassing you, which is the reason we was out there in the first place. And we was watching. Matter of fact, there was from the Fort Lauderdale dojo, the 4,000 square foot dojo. There was a little bar right across the street from it, and we used to go across there, shoot pool, and it was a fight on. It was I think it was Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard or something like that fighting, and somebody wanted to change the channel. And one of the guys in the bar yelled that, "Let the two N-words kill each other." And Professor Powell looked at me and he said, "You remember the techniques we went over today?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Okay, well, handle that." And by the time I went, Dr. Powell was sitting in the middle. I was on the right of the professor, and the guy that said it was on the left of the professor. By the time I walked around to confront the guy, Professor Powell had already knocked this guy out.
Wow. And the guy, can you describe what was he? Was he a martial artist? Was he a big guy? Was he like?
Yeah, he was a big guy. Was
he a thug type?
Looks like one of those biker types. Those. It was because Fort Lauderdale was big with biker gangs at that time. So, and they used to frequent a lot of bars, and one just got tenderized that night.
Yeah. And so it was just quick. Just took him out. Like, did you see how he, like, what kind of techniques did they do? I mean, what did he do? Like, how did he take this guy out?
He hit him on the side of his carotid, which just put him right out. The guy's eyes just rolled behind his head, and he was gone. He was out.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because if you've ever felt this man's strength, everybody knows that Bruce Lee 1-inch punch. When Dr. Powell would hit you with that, it felt like you got hit with a 3-pound hammer. You know, like everything just shattered in your body. That's how you felt. I mean, his strength was just phenomenal. And another thing I don't hear a whole lot of people talking about, Shihan Frenchie knows, because when we was in the dojo, Professor Powell, he went through every weapon he had on the wall. He taught us the long bow, the short bow, the tonfa, the sai, the nunchucker. You know, he tried to teach me the 3-sectional staff, but I could not. I was afraid of that weapon. I could not master that weapon. But that man.
So Doc was pretty proficient in weapons.
Yes, indeed. Now, I hear anyone talk about that, and we would do it in the dojo all the time.
Let me ask you: did he ever talk about his relationship with Professor V?
Not very much. I've only met Professor V once. And not very much. You know, everybody knew who Professor V was. We knew it was his instructor. You know, he was. We knew. You could just see it when someone's honor their instructor. You could just see it. You could just feel it. But we knew how much he loved Professor V, but he didn't talk about him very much.
I did an interview with Professor Watts. He told me something off the air. I meant to ask him on the air, but he did tell me. He said that Professor V taught Dr. Powell tradition. You know, and what he meant by that was that, you know, that Doc was a very traditional person in the sense that he respected his teacher, and, you know, he never would talk bad about his teacher. Would you say that was a true statement? Like, would you say he was a traditionalist in terms of his approach as a martial artist, in terms of the humility and the respect and stuff like that?
Yes, I would. I would say he was a traditionalist, because we had structure in our dojo, which a lot of dojos don't have, and a lot of people think dojos can run without structure. Excuse me. But I mean, if you would have to be in that dojo to understand what I'm saying. If you've ever been in a dojo with no structure, and then when you're in one that does have structure, it's like night and day.
Give me an example. Just kind of give the audience paint a picture. What was that structure like? What, just from the time you entered the dojo to the time you left, and then when you was in between, like what kind of, like, let's say like a person he's about to start a brand new SanucesS dojo, he just got a showdown. He can listen to the show. He's excited. He just found what advice would you say how he should structure his dojo as Dr. Powell did it in Florida, you know, and let's say in 81, 80, 83, 84, 85. What kind of structure did he have?
Everybody has rank for a reason. So underbelts didn't, you couldn't just walk over and start talking to Professor Powell. You had to check with higher rank first before you could walk over and talk to the professor. And of course, when you walk into the dojo, you have to bow before you enter the mat. You had to have your belt tied correctly, because they would not let you on that floor and let Professor Powell see your belt tied incorrectly. So you just knew, because people was always saying, "You got to hurry up, don't keep the professor waiting, hurry up." You have that type of structure, that you knew you couldn't disappoint this man, or it was going to be hell to pay. And everybody did their part. It was just phenomenal. And when he came onto the mat, everybody was already lined up, and you get the command of Kyosuke, you slap your sides together, and then you go into Caesar, and you go down and bow to the professor, and then you stand up. It was just uniform. It's beautiful.
And when you entered the dojo, what did you have to say?
You bowed at the dojo. As soon as you walked in, you bow and you walk in and you get dressed, and bow before you enter the mat.
Now, when you walked into the dojo, when you said us, did he have to acknowledge you before you could come into the dojo, or could you just say us and then just come into the dojo?
Well, if you could say us and come into the dojo, he had to acknowledge you to come onto the mat.
Okay, now that's interesting. Now, and I want, that's my nature. I'm very technical. I'm a very technical person, but so it varies from it. So when you come into when you come at the dojo, and when you say, okay, so I say us. Now, did the doc have to say us, and then you come into the dojo, or could you say us, and he had to he had to hear you or catch eye contact, and then you could come into the dojo, or could you have said us, come into the dojo, but he had let's say you had a private conversation, he was on the phone, and he didn't know you came into the dojo, but you did say us, like would that have ticked him off?
No, once you walked in, you said us, and you stepped into the dojo, and if he was on the phone, you waited until he got off the phone, and then us to him, and then walked to the back.
I see. Now, and then it turns, and then, okay, fine. And then when you come into the dojo, before you get on the mat, okay, then you got to say, okay, so how did he pull you on? Like, okay, so what was the protocol before you can get on the mat?
Because if you showed up late and class had already started, and you came out the back room, first you had to be running in there. If you was late, you had to be running. And he had to acknowledge you whether or not you can come in if you was late. If you was on time, it's fine. But if you was late, he would have to give you that okay, that it's okay for you to train. You run to the back, get dressed, come back out, and he has to acknowledge you again in order for you to enter the mat.
Now, what time? So you said class started at 6. You said you guys ended around 10:30. So
yes, sir.
What would be considered late? 6:01, 6:02? Did he give you a 15-minute grace period? What was late?
Anything after 6 o'clock. It could be 6:01.
Okay, so I'm running. Shabazz is running to the class. I'm getting to the class. I get in. Boom. It's 6:05. I'm late. You guys are already in the program. When I come in late, what is the protocol? What is the doctor? How does he deal with me? I'm 5 minutes late.
You're going to probably be doing 100 push-ups.
Okay. So I got to do 100 push-ups. So now I come in, and let's say I say, well, come on, Doc. I mean, come on, man. I got kids, you know what I'm saying? I got a job. I'm late, man. Traffic, you know what I'm saying? Why I got to do now, let's say someone just, what's the protocol then?
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. You were late. And you
but as it relates to that particular example, in the sense that, I'm kind of breaking protocol because I'm talking back. So the fact that I'm coming at him like that, like, look, it's traffic, blah, 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 blah. Like, how would he deal with that? I mean, like, let's say shit, like, would he knock me out or what? He just say, get out of here. Like, how would he deal with that response?
He'd probably sweep you or Kodegash you right there. I could tell you some stories of some things that happened. One time I was in the Willoughby dojo, and he had the matter of fact, the guy that I started training in his backyard, Marvin Groover, when I was training in his backyard in 79, this brother. But he and I was in the dojo down at Willoughby. And
yes, sir.
He put us in that horse stance. And this is when he had us in that horse stance for 45 minutes. And he told us not to move. Now, he walked down the street and got something to eat and came back. And Doc used to keep a snake out there in the aquarium. And Marvin and myself, we kept hearing something move. And we know it was nobody out there. Nothing was out there with the snake. And he had a telephone book over this aquarium. And the telephone book hit the floor. So we knew the snake was out now. And we were still in the horse stance. And I looked at him. I said, I think the snake is out. And he said, well, the professor said don't move, so we can't move. And now the snake is crawling across the floor. He's got on the mat. So we both went out the back door. And when we came back in, the professor had the snake, put him back in the aquarium or the cage or whatever that thing was called, and put the phone books back on it. And then he asked us, why did we move? So that was 250 left rows, 250 back rows, 250 right side rows, back rows, side falls, left side and right side. We were spent after that.
Man, now, what kind of snake was that? What kind of snake was it?
I don't even know what kind of snake it was. It was red and different colors, red and yellow.
Hey, one of the things I want to, and let me interject again here, Shihan and Shihan, is that one thing I think I can't speak for any other area except for when Doc came to visit Atlanta, doing seminars periodically. And so down in Florida, one thing like Shihan was saying, Doc controlled that floor. Even a guest instructor, or whether it was anybody, Ruiz or anybody came by, Doc controlled his floor. He didn't let anybody control his floor, and students, and even you can tell them, even our uniforms, wasn't all this crazy stuff you see going on with 20 different colors in the dojo. We was a structured system down there. I'll let Shihan and Kevin go ahead and give you more details on it. It was very structured down in Florida.
That it was, because everybody wore white. You could only wear all black if you was a master. And the only black that we had on it, if he said you was privileged enough to wear hawk. And if Dr. Powell told you, if you wore a hawk in his dojo, you better represent it. You better represent it, because he did not want anybody slacking off in their training and they had a hakama on. So, but everybody wore all white up until you got a certain rank before you could start wearing black and white or all black. Had to be a master to wear all black. And Sandans, 3rd degrees, can wear black and white.
We're talking to Shihan Kevin Aaron out of South Florida, SanucesS room master, on the phone with myself, Fukan Shabazz, and Shihan Salahuddin. Shihan, let me ask you, before I go on to the heart-to-heart segment, who is Lutalo Muhammad?
Lutalo Muhammad is, actually, he's bodyguarding somebody right now in the United Nations. He's a long-time practitioner with SanucesS. When Dr. Powell left to go back to New York and I was training with Master Kamal Rashad, Lutalo Muhammad was always there. He was Master Kamal Rashad's right-hand man. So he's a long time.
And how good was he in the SanucesS?
He was a beast. This brother is smooth. I mean, when he was out on the mat, you thought Dr. Powell was out on the mat.
Yeah, Lutalo Muhammad was on the first videotape, Fighting Concepts #1.
Now, Lutalo Muhammad, is he from New York? Is he from Florida?
He's from Trinidad, actually.
Trinidad.
But yes, yeah, he's from Trinidad. But he was I don't know where he was. I know he's from Trinidad. When he stayed here, he was living. When I was training with Kamal, when Professor Powell left, he was actually living with Kamal at the time. So that was in the Fort Lauderdale area. And then he moved to Miami.
Let me ask you a question. Did Doc carry any weapons? Like, I know you said that he was into, and I know you said he was very proficient about this, but did he carry guns? Like, was he a gun carrier?
Yes, he was, actually.
What kind of gun he carried? Like, what was his favorite gun? What kind of gun did he carry?
I choked up on that one.
Right. But any true martial artist that believes in self-defense is a weapons fanatic. Be it guns, knives, sticks, it didn't matter.
Well, what kind of gun did he carry?
It all depends. He had several. It all depends. I don't really want to get into that.
Okay. All right. Let me say, who are you currently aligned with now in SanucesS room?
Professor Jerry Denson. He and I do seminars and demonstrations a lot. We do Shiads. His class come to mine, my class go to his. And we interact and intertrain.
And do you have a black belt in any other styles other than SanucesS room?
I have a 4th Dan in a system called Lost Legacy of Martial Arts.
And what is that about? What was the founder?
The instructor is Soki John LeGrand. It's a karate-based system. They do karate, taekwondo, aikido, and jiu-jitsu. I helped his camp out a lot. His camp came to mind. We interacted a lot.
Shihan, I'm getting ready to go into this heart-to-heart segment. Do you have any other questions before we move into this heart-to-heart?
No, sir, I don't.
Well, I'll talk to my teacher, Saladin. You have any questions?
You got two Shihans. You got to have to clarify now.
Okay, Shihan Saladin. Okay, so Shihan, Garen, I'm about to go into the heart-to-heart segment. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So, Shihan.
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, this is our anniversary. Oh, matter of fact, let me give the show an applause. This is our 30th show.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, you're our 30th guest, 30th anniversary show.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into it. So, 1978. Now I'm pulling from mine because I've done 30 interviews now. So at this point, I think I have a good grasp of where Doc was at. You know, I kind of know where he was at in New York in the early days. I know where he's at in the late. I kind of got a good. I think I got a good sketch of him now. So it's 78, 79. He leaves New York City. He was on 554 Atlantic Avenue, and while he was in New York, you know, he left New York, then he left a void behind in New York. He comes to Florida. So now he's in Florida. You already was trained in 2 years. You come into the dojo, you see him. Now, when he was teaching you, he had already had a 15, 25-year history that he left behind in New York, you know, from the 60s, 50s, 80s, 70s. And now you're seeing him now in the early 80s. When Doc, as your teacher, when, you know, because, you know, a sensei to their students is like a father to their children, you know, in a way. I mean, you're kind of like, that's just how it is. So, right. So he's going to just, sensei's going to always feel very comfortable with the student, especially if you're dedicated to him. So when he was on that floor, how did he feel about the people he left behind in New York City? Like, what did he feel about, or did he ever talk about his students from New York? You know, like, let's say whether it was Soke Littlejohn or Cross, like whoever. Did he ever mention anybody from New York, or did he ever talk about anybody from New York or the New York days, or did he even talk about his dojo, or whether it was in the one in Harlem or the one in Brooklyn? Let me let you answer that.
Actually, he did. He used to talk about him all the time. I mean, he loved it. He loved it. That's where his, I guess, his foundation, you should say, was from. And you know, he was still in the perfecting the stages of SanucesS. I mean, he had much love for all the guys when he left. It was just some things that he was unhappy with was the reason why he left. Because SanucesS is the Master Moses Powell's life's work, and he put the time, the effort, and the energy into perfecting the system, and it did his heart injustice when he saw other people trying to change SanucesS or incorporate something different, especially when they went into the tournament aspect of SanucesS, because Dr. Powell used to always say SanucesS is for self-defense. This is not a sport. You know, this is for self-defense, and he didn't like what direction other people were trying to turn his system into. So he's
so you wouldn't say that. So can you be more specific? Like, who would you say was like? Who did he name? Like, who did he say like that he had a problem with in terms of that?
Well, that's going way back. I do know the names, but I don't want to cause any problems. But
okay, I understand. I respect that. All right. So my next question is. Let's see. All right, one time you was placed over the curriculum in SanucesS by Dr. Moses Powell. What happened with that?
I was on the board of directors 1 year, and I voiced my opinion on how things could go, and I was not on there anymore. So basically, I got kicked off the board.
Now tell us about this board. Was this board? When you say board, are you talking about the first federation? What do you mean by board?
There was a board of directors on who was going to oversee the teachings of SanucesS and how things was going to be run, how the system was going to be structured. Because what I was trying to explain to them, it's just like buying into any other franchise, because my cousin and I wanted to buy into a franchise, and they said we would have to work every aspect of the business. You're going to know everything. So, because they want all of their businesses run the same. We was trying to buy into Outback Steakhouse, and they said, okay, you're going to wait tables, you're going to greet people, you're going to manage the place, you're going to cook, you're going to do everything this business entails so you can run this business the way we want it run. And that's what I was trying to bring to them with SanucesS. Everybody needs to be on the same page to run all of these SanucesS dojos the same. If you don't have the information, get it. You know, we should all help one another out because none of us has a complete system. And I was open-minded enough to do that, but I don't think no one else was.
And when you say board, you mean the board? So the SanucesS rule system, he had a board of directors for his system at the time.
Yeah, I actually have that. I can name off everybody that was on it, but I was trying to find that, and I could not find it. It's probably not. Now,
the people that was on the board, was it just people from Florida, or was it people from Florida in New York, or was it?
There was people from all over.
Mm-hmm.
There's people from all over.
And is that board still in existence now?
That I am unsure of, because when they kicked me off, I didn't hear anything else about it.
Shihan, who? You mean the board as a whole just decided to take you off of the board?
Right, because you used to receive emails, you used to receive phone calls on the next meeting, and all of those phone calls and things stopped coming, and I was no longer on it. So.
Wow.
Okay, Shihan, have you ever received phone calls from people in the system asking for the curriculum, and who were they?
Yes, I have actually, and I don't want to go into who it was, but I did receive those phone calls from several people.
And did you ever send them the curriculum?
I sent them some things. I didn't send them everything, but the curriculum is not. You really can't. You can give anybody the curriculum. They can't teach off of it unless they know what it is. And some of the stuff you just have to be in the dojo. It's just basic for each belt level, what you should know for each belt level.
Hey, let me ask you this question: Have you ever have you seen that curriculum put together by Professor Tom Perry? Have you seen his curriculum?
I've seen the book that he has.
Yeah, the book. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The book.
Right.
Now, how does his book differ from the curriculum that you have?
I think the book that he put together was from the time frame that he trained, because he also made a statement in his book that Dr. Powell never lift weights, and maybe he never saw Dr. Powell lift weights during his time period, but we used to lift weights in the dojo all the time.
Oh, and what was some of the and from what you have in that? Because I'm telling you, people listen to this show, man. That Florida area ain't no joke.
Mm-hmm.
If you was blessed. And I'm in New York too, and I'm saying that Florida era ain't no joke. And if you was blessed to come out of Florida, I'm putting this on national radio, that to me, that Florida is it's potent. So I would say it's incumbent that all SanucesS rule practitioners, from the old guard, the new guard, whatever, we should all try to understand this Florida era. But in that curriculum, in that Florida curriculum, how, was there a significant difference from what Doc was saying in that curriculum, in that era, versus what was in Tom's Curry book, Professor Tom's Curry book, or was it just, or was it not that significant?
Well, it's just some of the terminology that he used. That's just coming from where he trains. He's probably using his own definitions of it, and I'm sure I'm sure Dr. Powell told him probably to write stuff down, and he wrote down what he wrote down, and he wrote it down how he wrote it. But it's what we were doing were something different. That's why I say everybody can only speak of their time period. And I can only speak of my time period, and some of the stuff that's in there I didn't do during my time period. So
yeah, because the system kept evolving.
Right. As he got older, he started shortening a lot of his techniques. He started focusing on nerves and pressure points a lot more. Because when I was training with him, he was well into his 40s. He was in his early 40s, so it was butt whooping 101. I mean, Doc was breaking you down. As he got older, he wanted to start slowing techniques down. I mean, not slowing techniques down. He wanted to shortening techniques instead of having those long techniques. He just shortened them straight and to the point.
Let me ask you, have you ever been told that Dr. Powell was never in Florida? And by who and what proof did you offer them?
Actually, I was never told that Doc was never in Florida, but I've heard that a lot. And one of my senior student has heard that. I'm unsure of who he heard it from, but he used to hear that all the time. And there's a YouTube video with Dr. Powell on it saying that he's returning to New York after spending 20 years in Florida. I mean, they can find it on YouTube. I have proof that he was here. They can go online. We're in a technology age these days. They can go online and they can find out every place Dr. Powell lived. And it will show you right where he was living, right here in Fort Lauderdale. Every address he had, every house that he stayed in. There's like 3 houses down here. And
before. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And he had vans. He had 2 vans, white vans with the big SanucesS crest on the side of it. They used to pick up children to go to the dojo. Do you know this professional kick fighter named Tony Paramore?
No,
because I fought him in the dojo when he was getting ready to. Well, it wasn't a fight. He demolished me, but I think I was 16 then. But he was getting ready to fight Anthony Elmore for a professional kickboxing match that was going to be on Wild World of Sports, and he was training right there in Professor Powell's dojo, and I was his sparring partner. Actually, I was his kicking dummy.
Hey, let me ask you, before I go to the take callers, we have some callers online. Before I go to these callers, just before I end this heart-to-heart session, because this is my last question, just sort of for the record, what were the years that you trained under Dr. Powell from what to what? I know 81, from 81 to...
81 to probably 87, 88, somewhere around in there.
Okay, so let's say so from 81.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
When I was training at, as a matter of fact, I have my original application of when I joined the dojo, if anybody wants to see that. But I joined the Willoughby's dojo, and I trained down there for a couple of years, and then he moved to this other location. And when we moved to the Federal Highway location, the 4,000 square foot dojo, that's when he saw on my application what my birthday was, and he realized that he and I was born on the same day, January 13th. And at that point, he said he was taking me up under his wing. And so we hung out a lot after that. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. I found out, I'll tell you that. But
so I asked you that for this point, my last question. From 81 to, let's say, 87, 88, what were there any grandmasters or masters that, like, we all know about now, like it's on the internet, all over, TV, whatever? Were there any masters that you saw that came down and visited you guys within that 7-8 year period? Whether it was Soke Little John or whoever, was anyone that came down to visit you guys?
That always visited our dojo was the masters that was in the Florida area. I don't remember. They could have. I don't remember any of the guys who used to come down. I remember Frank Ruiz used to always be in the dojo. Master Larry Mapson, Master Omar, Master Herbert Thompson, Master Joe Hess, Master Rex Lee. I don't remember any visiting instructors.
Now I know Grandmaster Phil Shanique is in that area. Dr. Phil Shanique. Did he come through the dojo?
Right. He was at that dojo, and he was also running his own dojo. He had a dojo called Budokan 1 and Budokan 2 that he was running also. And he was training with us as well. Him and Professor Leo Velasquez.
Okay, and he had Budokan 1 and Budokan 2. And Dr. Powell's school, one was called Moses Powell 1 and Moses Powell 2, right?
When I went to the second location, it was Grandmaster Moses Powell School of Self-Defense. That's the Federal Highway location, so he had just got promoted to Grandmaster. The first location was Professor Moses Powell.
So he actually had his name on the dojo. So the name of the school was his name?
Yes, sir.
Now, that's pretty interesting.
It was Grandmaster Moses Powell School of Self-Defense, Inc.
Now, that's pretty interesting because I've never in my life ever heard of a person who named a system, and put their name on it. I mean, to me, when you do something like that, to me, that's like 100% confidence that your stuff works.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you just think about the psychology, like if you just think of like the pathology, like the psychology of that, the fact that you would just put your name on the book, on the front of the school. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like a powerful statement.
Right.
What do you think about that? The fact that he got his name on it, he got his name on the school. What do you think? What message does that send to the world about who he is as a martial artist? In your opinion.
It was incredible because people knew who he was when he opened the dojo. Because when we was out at that Willoughby dojo, the school was called Professor Moses Powell School of Martial Arts. The second school was Grandmaster Moses Powell School of Self-Defense, Inc. That was the second location. And those people knew who he was because they were standing in line at the dojo wanting to see the one-finger rollout. And these are because in Willoughby, there was no black people living out in Willoughby. And Dr. Powell was like the only black person living out there. And those white folk out there knew who he was, and they wanted to see demonstrations all the time. And they knew about the one-finger rollout.
What was their relationship? Like what the whites that lived in that area? Because Florida, especially back in those days, I'll put it like this. Dr. King said that when Dr. King was doing this thing with the civil rights, Florida was one of the states he bypassed. So in those early 80s, I'm sure race relations, wasn't that great. So what was it like when the Caucasians came to Dr. Powell's school? Like, what was that kind of relationship like? Did they challenge him? Did they doubt he could do what he was, or was it respect? Like, what was that relationship like?
Well, they probably doubted it at first until they actually saw him in action on the mat. And that's why we were training so hard, because of all those type of activities that was going on. I mean, you had to know how to defend yourself in Florida. You couldn't walk anywhere by yourself and not be harassed or attacked. I've been shot at just walking home by some guys. You had to learn how to defend yourself. And I said they probably had a lot of skeptics at the time, but he made a believer out of them. But that location,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was saying, because, that kind of brings me back to another point, too, the fearlessness and the warrior spirit of Dr. Powell, because you think about that incident on the beach, the biker approaches him. I'm assuming he was a white man, right, a Caucasian, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so he gets knocked out by this big black man, and I'm sure he had a crew. Now, did his crew challenge him?
Not at all. Not at all.
That's interesting. And that's a biker. You know what I mean? And they're known for, with the head wraps and the chains and maybe guns and all that. And you're talking, and this is what, like early 80s, right?
Right.
And did they ever come to the dojo and try to mess with him or try to bomb his dojo or anything?
No, not at all.
They came to train.
And did Doc ever have any fear in the sense that did he ever go back to that same beach?
Yes, indeed. We frequent that beach all the time. All the time. I mean, the man, he was just a walking presence. And
Dr. Powell is truly a warrior, man. That dude, amazing man. An amazing man.
Yes, indeed.
All right, So 619-996-1602. I'm talking to Shihan Kevin Aaron. I'm going to go to our first caller. Let me just tell you how to do. I'm just going to read the last four numbers of your number, digits of your number. Right now, we have 3 callers on the line, I see. And when I read off your number, just state your name and ask your question. State your name, where you're from, and ask your question to the guest. Us. Okay, 0271. 0271. You're on the air. Okay. All right. Next caller is 0403. 0403. All right. And then the last caller, 2275. 2275.
Nobody.
Okay.
Oh.
What's going on there, sir?
Can you state your name and where you're from?
Chief Grandmaster, Yehuda Shem Yehuda Prince, Hearts of Abraham.
Us Chief Grandmaster. Welcome to the show. How you doing, sir?
I'm hanging in there, trying to put one foot in front of the other and not trip. It ain't been easy.
Okay, so what question do you have for the guest today, sir?
My question for the guest is, would you please describe for the audience the Buddha arts?
I'm sorry.
The Buddha arts.
He said the Buddha arts.
What arts are considered as the Buddha arts?
The Buddha arts, I'm not familiar.
Is karate considered a Buddha art? Is Aikido considered a Buddha art? Is Jiu-Jitsu considered a Buddha art? Is Kung Fu considered a Buddha art? Is SanucesS considered a Buddha art or an art that was created in this hemisphere?
I'm not associating Buddha with martial arts. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay. Each art that is taught has a language, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If the language that you are learning the discipline in, if it is not English, or if it's primarily taught in Japanese, then everything that you learn going to be termed in that way, and you'll have an English equivalent, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, if we are studying SanucesS and it was created in this hemisphere, then it was basically created in English. Yes, you may have a few terms that may be references for individuals that may be considered as cross-training, but 90% of it will be in English. Yes?
Okay.
All right. So, I understand you said that you were documenting some things as far as the system goes. In the documenting of the curriculum and the proprietary teaching, is it in English or is it in Japanese? Or a combination of?
It is in English, sir.
Oh, okay. Would you have any of that material in front of you?
Yes, I do, actually.
Would you, for the sake of my own curiosity, read off a couple of things?
What would you like to hear? What would you like for me to read?
Okay.
SanucesS is a Japanese art, so I mean, Jiu-Jitsu is a Japanese art, and so only terminology you want to have from Japanese are the throws or
right, thank you.
falls. Yes, sir.
It was my pleasure. Go to your next guest.
Okay, thank you, Chief Professor. Okay, Shihan Saladin, Aaron, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So we have about 33 minutes left. We don't have any more. Callers at the moment. What are some other things you would like to tell the audience about SanucesS?
I got a few questions for you. Let me interject here, Shihan. Shihan, describe. Let me ask you a question. Just a few of them here.
describe snooker's rule for what you see in a real fight. In a real fight, describe what Doc's snookers would be, or what your snookers would be in a real situation when somebody was whether it's a gun or a knife or something. How would you describe snooker's rule?
Well, Doc taught. He called snooker streetology. So he taught self-defense that's going to get you home at night. You know, we didn't do the tournament style fighting. You know, we did real life self-defense. And I mean, you immediately knew that you could, because I had trained in other styles, and you know when you train in another style, you train someplace for a couple of years, and then you join a dojo like Professor Moses Powell, and it's just total night and day. You know, it's like now I've begun training. It's just like whenever you train in any discipline and you become a shodan, a first-degree black belt, and then they tell you, okay, now you're ready to start learning martial arts, because now that you've mastered the basics, now you're ready to start learning. It was like that at the first day once you entered Professor Powell's class, because you felt as though you could defend yourself. You really felt confident that you could defend yourself, because you wasn't. He didn't believe in the punch, kicking, and blocking for 6 months, the rolling and falling for 6 months before you got any self-defense. You got self-defense the first day you joined that dojo, because that's why you joined the dojo, to protect yourself. And you shouldn't have to wait 6 months or a year before you can learn self-defense to defend yourself.
Yes, sir. One thing the doc used to say in the classes, I'm going to teach you something today that can save your life, not 6 months down the road. So,
exactly.
Well said. What is snooker's answers to the grappling phase of, you know, all the grapplers and things like that? How would someone that's prevalent in what we call real snooker's rule, I mean, just a pure Moses Powell system of snooker's rule, how would they deal with, in your opinions and your thoughts, with, let's say, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Sambo or a wrestler or something like that? What's the snooker's answer to the grappling craze as far as real self-defense situation?
My answer to that is the same as Professor Powell when I was training with him. You know, all martial arts is good. You know, the grapplers, the Brazilians, they're very good at what they do, and it is effective. But when you're dealing with the time that you're living in, if I'm out with a friend of mine and you're on the ground grappling with a friend of mine, I'm not going to stand there and watch that. I'm going to stomp a mud hole in you. You know, it's not. That's what Dr. Powell was trying to say. You're not going to get into a real-life situation out there, because their thing is most fights end up on the ground, which if you're a martial artist, your job is to put the other guy on the ground. Well, so, but, you know, if it does end up on the ground and people out there and friends and, you know, because I live in South Florida. People go out and fight all the time. You're not jumping on one person without having to fight his friends also. And that's why, you know, Dr. Powell, I think he even said that in an interview one time. You have to worry about, that's why you should always say watch your back, because you have to always worry about someone else. And you don't have time to be wrestling and grappling with somebody on the ground.
Well, yes, Shihan, one of the things that I teach in the dojo here, Shihan, is something we drill, multiple attack drills. Doc said watch your back for a reason. However, when we're watching particular snooker instructors, and many of them out there, they seem to concentrate on one attack. Although they say they watch their back, here's when they watch their back after they roll a person, and then they look to the left and they look to the right, and they consider that watching the back. And Doc's dojo in Florida, we get a lot of multiple attack training, things like that. Well, why the disconnect, you believe, from a lot of snooker's dojos to not prepare for multiple attacks?
I have no idea. Because we used to run those in the dojo all the time. You're absolutely right. I have no idea.
Yeah, Shihan,
mind-boggling.
Shihan, Aaron, that's actually what I was going to ask you, because in my dojo in Senjokai, and actually to the listeners, if you go to senjokai.com and if you click rankings, you can actually see some of the syllabus up, and as it gets into the darker belts, you know, you have to be a member to see what that's all about. But you'll notice in rankings that, you know, we have a lot of sets, and a lot of that is, you know, projections, throws, grappling, strangulations, like that. But as we're doing this in class, the last 15 minutes of class, 30 minutes of class, let's say like myself or Walker or Sensei Mitch or Senpai, Senpai, you know, we're being what's the sister's? I mean, or Shihan, what's the sister's name? Ashley, or the sister Ashley. You know, we each got to get in the dojo one by one, and there may be about 4 or 5 people circle us, and then the sensei will just say attack, and they attack us, and we each there got to deal with them for about 5 minutes each, and they throwing punches, they throwing kicks, and if you don't move, you get knocked out. You know, and I mean that's just how it is, and we do that every class. We do that every class, and they come from all angles. We're constantly moving. I mean, sometimes you got 2 come and punch. You know, they're kicking you, and we do this every single class. And so what I want to, and so when I look on the internet, I haven't seen that yet. I don't see that. I don't see any multiple attacks being done, and that's something that's drilled in our dojo every night. And what I wanted to know from you is, was that something that Doc did down in Florida?
Yes, we did. Some dojos call it round robin, you know, and some dojos run a drill like they would give everybody a number and they would scatter the line and they just call out numbers and you don't know where you're being attacked from, left, right, back, front, and you just have to react. And it's a good drill. It really is. It's a good drill. But most dojos aren't training. They're training. But when you have hour classes or hour and a half classes, you're not getting the same effect when you're training 4.5 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because our dojo was always open. It was open on Sunday. You know, you have to put the time in. And with time, you get good results. It's just repetition. I really wanted to answer the Grandmaster's question, too. I just wasn't I was unclear what he was asking. What did he want me to read to him?
Do you want me to bring him? Because I think he's still online. Do you want me to bring him back into the conversation so you can because we don't. He could actually be the last caller for the night because we still have time and I think that would have turned into an interesting conversation.
Sure.
Do you want me to bring him? Okay, let me see. Hi, Grandmaster Chief Professor Shim, are you on the line? Chief Professor.
I didn't know that was Professor Shim. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's not there. He's gone. Yeah.
Well, Shihan, let me.
Yes, sir.
And what is from your conversation in time with Dr. Moses Powell? How much of SanucesS is jiu-jitsu, karate, Chinese, Bondo, or any other arts? How much of it is Sanucesss? How much would you give a percentage to? Would you say it's 80% jiu-jitsu, 10% karate? How would you? Did Doc ever break it down, Sanucesss, or if he didn't? What would your personal opinion be? How much of Sanucesss, the arts, how much of Sanucesss is jiu-jitsu, karate, et cetera, et cetera?
No, he didn't really break it down. But, you know, the art talk, karate, stick fighting, and jiu-jitsu. But, you know, your karate part is your basic martial arts, is your basic stances, your punches, your kicks, and your blocks. And when you put the Sanucesss aspect on it, the jiu-jitsu aspect is being able to get in and out of techniques, your rows and your falls, because his rows and falls are different than most places that do rows and falls. And his self-defense, so it's probably 90-10.
Awesome. And
what about you said 90% jiu-jitsu?
90% jiu-jitsu, yes, sir.
Which is what I say too, by the way.
That's just my opinion.
No, that's exactly what I say too, brother. So
right.
You can tell I was in the dojo with Shihan. That's exactly what I tell my students. We do 90% jiu-jitsu and 10% everything else.
So let me ask you, in that Florida era, like from 81 to 88, 87, whatever. So when you guys was working out, like when you trained, did people like drop back into like long like karate stances and stuff like that, or what was the simulation like? Was it from a boxing stance? Was it from a karate stance?
And that's the thing. I'm glad you asked that question, actually, because you would have a lot of people saying that, that's not a real-life situation. Nobody's going to drop back into a Zenkusu Dachi and throw a punch at you and this and that. Some people tend to forget when they was an underbelt why you was an underbelt. The belts have stages. You know, when you was white, yellow, and green, you came from a Zenku Sudachi stance. When you became a purple belt, a brown belt, and a black belt, everything was touch and go. It was standing right in front of you, you know, because you had to have a chance to build up to that point. That's why you have a curriculum. That's why you have structure. You know, you have to crawl before you can walk. I mean, they were attacking us with real knives. How am I going to get out of the way of a real knife? I can't walk into the dojo of black belt. You have to train to get up to that level. You know, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that. Or nobody's going to drop down and just throw a punch at you. You know, you work on your footwork. It gives you an opportunity to work on your timing, to work on how to get in a technique, how to get out of technique. And by the time you get to a purple belt, you should have that perfected to where you don't have to come from there. And that's why it was done.
Let me ask you. Hey, let me ask you. What is the SanucesS rule approach, and also from your perspective, and also what you say is Dr. Powell's approach? Let's say dealing with a boxer. Like, how does SanucesS rule deal with a boxer?
But that's the thing. That is a good question, because that's why, you know, when people train, you know, boxers throw combinations. And that's why Dr. Powell used to always say, get off first, because you have a series of punches coming at you. So when you get off first, you have to block and strike and give him that shock and awe to stop his attack. You know, because you don't want to just stand there and box with a boxer, and that's what he does. So you have to, you know, perfect your craft. That's why you're in there, you know, putting in the time, doing your calisthenics and working on those fingertip push-ups and those knuckle push-ups, behind the wrist push-ups, because when you strike somebody with one of those strikes, it has to work. Because if you're not training, it's not going to work for you. So when you're up against a boxer, you're going to have to stick and move.
So did Doc ever talk about boxing? Like, did he ever talk about that he liked boxing, or like what? Like, did he ever mention anything about boxing?
That he does. We had the speed bags in the class, and we had the bags that the canvas bags that we used to work all of the time, and the focus pads that we used to work different drills, different boxing drills.
And Makiwara, we had a Makiwara in also.
Yes, indeed. That we did.
Let me ask you, if Dr. Moses Powell was living today, 2012, let's just say, you know, he just, you know, you cut on the TV and it just said, you know, Dr. Powell just opened up a school downtown Miami. If he was living today, what do you think he would say about the current state of SanucesS Jiu-Jitsu right now?
I don't think he would be too happy, because it's going against what he tried to make out of the system. But you know, when someone put together their life work, and when you start seeing other people, you know, mixing whatever it is that they're doing with it, you know, it's like the saying, you can't serve two masters. You either do this or you do that. You know, because and what is it saying to an instructor that put his blood, sweat, and tears into a system that you're saying, okay, I'll make it better by doing this? Okay, who are you to change someone else's life's work?
And from your impression of knowing Dr. Moses Powell, I mean, did he ever leave even towards when he was about to leave Florida? And actually, before I ask that question, when he was leaving, I guess he left Florida maybe in 88, 89, around the time you know your training was ending with him. And when you knew that he was going to head back to New York, how did that feel for you? How did that feel? Like, what did that feel for the brothers, you know, white or black, down there in Florida, when they knew that Chichi was going back to New York City? What was that like?
Oh, everybody's heart dropped. It felt like someone died in your family. You know, because and we all thought he had went back, but he was actually still living in Florida. Well, we didn't know it at the time.
And you know what was so interesting was that he left New York City in 1978. And when he left New York City in 1978, he left behind a void. And then he went back. Now check this interesting thing out. He went back to New York City around 1988, right? Like 1988, 89, right?
No. 91, 92. When he
91, 92. Okay, 91, 92.
He still was a legal resident of the state of Florida and maintained residency in the state of Florida.
Right.
No, but I mean, when I say left, I don't mean from living there. I mean from teaching there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and what year did he leave Florida as teaching in Florida?
I showed up to the dojo, and the doors was closed, and there was no note on the dojo as to where he moved. I didn't know where he had went at that point. He was actually still in Florida, as Shihan just said. He was still residing in Florida. He could have been commuting back and forth because in the 90s, that's when those SanucesS DVDs came out. So he had to be up there working on those.
But what year was that when the dojo closed in Florida?
It was in the late 80s.
Yeah, 88, 89. Because he came to Atlanta before he went to New York. He spent 2 years, I believe, 2 to 3 years in Atlanta. Then he went to New York in 91, 92.
Right. So now when he left in 88, 89, that's what I'm saying. So I'm making the same comparison. 88, 89, he leaves Florida, just like in 78, 79, he left New York. And when he left for New York, 78, 79, around that time, he left a big void. And I kind of got an idea what that void was like with 554 Atlantic Avenue. But what I don't have, which is what I'm going to ask you tonight, is when he was back to New York around 88, 89, what was the void like in Florida? What did that void feel like in the Florida era when he left from teaching there?
Right, like I said, everybody felt as though someone died in their family. I mean, it was we had to continue training with people in the system. Like I continued to train with Master Kamal Rashad, and I trained with Gino Alfarano, but we all just felt a big loss. Because that was the founder. That's your foundation. And,
right. So now the question is that how did the art evolve? Like since he left that area from that time, how has the art evolved in the Florida area from 88 to now?
That's a good question because people continued to train. We used to go to his house. When he was living here in Palm Bay, he used to go to his house in Palm Bay. I'm sure Professor Veronica went to New York and people visiting. I guess there was people just commuting, doing seminars, because I lost contact for a while myself, and there was a void. There was a void before I got back into the system, before I actually started teaching myself.
Right. And similar how, like, when he left New York, like how some people, started their own systems and all that when he left New York. When he left Florida, did people start creating their own systems?
That they did. Some already had their own systems, and some did create their own systems. And
so some of the systems. So what's some of the systems that come out of the Florida area that people may not even know about unless you're from there, but has a strong influence of SanucesS rule?
Most of the schools are still called SanucesS. Professor Jerry is doing his thing. His school is SanucesS rule, Jiu-Jitsu. I think he just recently changed the name, but he still teaches SanucesS. Grandmaster Veronica, she's down in Homestead. Her and her son, they're still teaching SanucesS. Dr. Shanique is doing Atemi-Ru, but he does SanucesS also. Master Rex Lee was teaching Goju-Ru, but he had his nights where he did SanucesS also. That's about all I can remember.
I see. We got 13 minutes left. What would you like to tell the audience that maybe I haven't asked you or touched on that you think people should know for future generations as it relates to SanucesS rule and Dr. Moses Powell?
Well, the man was he was before his time. He was a legend in the martial arts, and everybody wants a part of him. And like I said, we can only speak about the time frame that we all had with him. I can only speak on my time frame. I don't try to talk about what he did no place else, but I just hold what I had from him true to my heart. And I don't know. They're just going to have to find a reputable instructor in SanucesS and try to learn as much wisdom and as much as they can about the man as possible, because he is truly a martial art legend.
What do you think the Sanucesss masters like yourself and like the Shihans and the Shodans and the Nidans and the professors and the chief professors and the grand masters, what do you think could be done that's not being done that could preserve Sanucesss rule?
Probably unity, because everybody, like I say, everybody has their own time frame, and it's probably hard for the guys that came up first to understand that he did go someplace else. But I mean, if I don't know if they can kind of, which I was trying to do. When I was on that board, I was trying to get some type of uniformity to where if you don't have something, say you're teaching Sanucesss, but you're only Sandan, you have a long way to go. There's a lot more that you can learn, and you need to get with someone to learn it. Or if you don't have the peer form, with someone to learn it. And if we're all up under the same system, we shouldn't mind helping one another out.
So as it relates to the propagation of Sanucesss rule, would you say that? Because when you do seminars, there's two ways you could do a seminar. You could do a seminar where you have a charismatic personality that's nationally recognized, and they could come out because they could sell some tickets. They come out, they do their thing, they go home and make a little bit of money in the time, shake some hands, sign some certificates, and that's the end of it. But then you can have another type of seminar where you can take these same people who are nationally recognized and some that are not nationally recognized, and then some that are just very highly skilled, like yourself. And the seminars cannot be centered around a personality or a group of personalities, but they can be centered around just the system. And you're coming to the seminars as a unity-based seminar where masters are coming to these seminars to share the knowledge to propagate the system on a higher level. Now, that type of seminar, the one that I just described, has something like that ever been done before?
I don't believe it has.
Okay.
It would be.
And if you think now if something like that was to come into place, I mean, how beneficial do you think that would be to the system?
It would be extremely beneficial to the system, because he has higher ranking people that can put that together. I mean, Sanucesss has been around for a while. He has a lot of high ranking, well qualified instructors that can make it happen. But everybody, I don't know what's holding everybody back. I know everybody's doing their own thing, have their own name for whatever it is that they're doing, but I don't know. If they could come together for a common goal, which is making Sanucesss stronger, it would be great.
And from your understanding of Dr. Moses Powell, I mean, did Dr. Moses Powell ever give you any kind of inclination, or anyone that you knew that knew him personally, did he ever give you any kind of inclination that he wanted his system to be left to a board or a person, or like as it relates to his system? Like, what do you think he like in terms of the perpetuation of his art? What do you think he had imagined it? How do you think he imagined it to continue to be perpetuated?
I know he didn't really speak of who he wanted to, at least not to me, who he wanted to leave the system to, or who he wanted to do what. But I think he wanted it, just like any other business, which probably should have been done at the ground level, was to have, because in most systems, you're not going to get promoted past second degree if you don't plan on furthering the system. Because once you become a third degree black belt, you can reproduce. And no systems out there was promoting you to third degree if you didn't want to teach and if you didn't want to further the knowledge of the system that you was teaching. And if it would have been structured that way, that you're not even going to Sandan, if you're not going to open up your own dojo, if you're not going to further the system, or this and that, and it should have been the Humble Dojo, and then SanucesS 1, SanucesS 2, SanucesS 3. Wherever you went, it should have been SanucesS 500. You know, that's how it should have been structured. Everybody should have been on the Humble Dojo. But it wasn't structured that way, and everybody has their own autonomy in what it is that they're doing now. So it's going to be tough.
All right. Shihan, didn't you have any more questions for the Shihan?
No, not good. Look here, Shihan, Kevin, Aaron, I just want to say thank you, man, because listen, when I started in 1985, it was Shihan and Kevin that kind of took me under his wing and stuff. I was really a young kid, and Shihan Kevin was, I guess, a teenager at that time, and he was, he really helped me out as far as learning the basics of SanucesS roles and things, stances, and we had a kind of a good friendship and kinship. He was always my big brother, my senior in the dojo. Now, even to today, I still stand next to that brother and say, this is my senior in the dojo. So he was the one that, even when Doc left and we were training with Gino and things like that, and he went his way and I went my way. I've always considered Kevin there my good friend and my senior in the art of SanucesS rules. So I just want to say thank you, Shihan, because you spent a lot of time, even before class started, helping me out with some of my basics of SanucesS when I was real young, man, and it's just good to finally get you on the radio, brother.
Not a problem. I appreciate it, and thank you very much. I didn't mind running over things with you. Didn't mind at all.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, go ahead, Shabazz. You can go ahead and just take us out unless you have some further questions for the Shihan. Let's let him get back to his day. I just wanted to say thank you for the interview, Shihan.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Yes, I want to just thank you, for giving us the opportunity and documenting the Florida era, which is a crucial cornerstone of the SanucesS rule martial arts system. And from what I heard of you, you are definitely out of that Florida era. You are definitely one of the greats that come out of that era. And it was definitely an honor to interview you, sir, have you documented, recorded, credited, and you deserve everything that comes to you. And I wish you the best. And those brothers down there in Florida, I wish all you guys the best. And you guys have a great sensei, and respect him, protect him, love him, and give him anything he needs and he asks. And I just want to say, in our tradition, eye to eye,
heart to heart. And Shihan, please get that old Sensei Ahmed Ahmad Sadiq back in the dojo, please.
I'm going to try to.
That brother name on the air.
I'm going to try to.
Yeah, get that sorry joker in the dojo, okay?
No problem. I appreciate you, brother. It was an honor.
Thank you, Shihan.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All back.
All right.